All right. So in this podcast today, or this week's podcast, one of the first questions that we're going over is more for like the everyday consumer. Everyday person who's not into real estate. Obviously, we're heavily into real estate, so we just have a different opinion than others. But for the average Joe, the first thing that we'll discuss is why invest into real estate. Not necessarily get into real estate, but why invest into real estate if you're an everyday Joe. Do you want me to go, or you want to go first?
Yeah, so that is a really good question, and a lot of people ask like, I just put my money into stocks or Bitcoin.
How's that going?
Put my money into Bitcoin. I don't need to buy real estate. And then a lot of those people that did that over the last 5-7 years, maybe longer, I don't know. But a lot of people that put money into Bitcoin, how many of them can actually get the money out?
Right.
Some did, but how many people can get the money out now?
Yeah.
If you have $1 million, $500,000, can you get the money out and buy something? And no, you can't. Why?
Yeah, well, and the value, Bitcoin, it's obviously it goes up and down like stocks, but more severe, and more extreme. And so it's definitely worth, it's like worth a third of what it was at its height right now. So
think about it too, like a lot of those people that bought Bitcoin that had $100,000 or $50,000, that they had bought a property even in Riverside County for like $200,000. They would have not as much as Bitcoin in value, but they would have cash flow per month, and they would have equity, and it would probably still be worth $515,000, $525,000, $600,000.
Depending on when you bought it, and today, and I think why, if you're an average Joe, I think that with how costly everything is, and homes, rent, groceries, cars, everything is going up in value like crazy. It's just skyrocketing. I think you need something else besides your like a retirement account to help off balance that. And that being said, there's emergencies that happen. With finances and potentially medical bills, or somebody gets sick. Stuff costs money. And it would be helpful to have, more assets if a disaster happens. And it looks like we're in a recession or going into a recession. And so it potentially could even get worse than what we're seeing today. And over the next 30, 40, 50 years, we're going to have more ups and downs. And so I think if you're an average Joe, having other income producing or just assets that you can use and leverage if a rainy day happens and, let's say you can't work anymore, but you bought a property and you can sell it and, live off of the reserves there. So I just think it makes more peace of mind for the average Joe, even if you just have one property. And we ran through the numbers last week of, if you bought a property, kept it for 30 years, the value, the rent, all that stuff. So I think it helps you sleep safe at night and more secure, knowing if something were to happen.
But Joey, what would you buy real estate instead of stocks?
Well, I would buy both. I'm a believer in both, but I would say like 90% real estate for sure. At least that's my portfolio allocation. Because somebody else's, I feel like not too many people are thinking about this. A tenant, somebody else is paying off my debt.
Right.
And I don't get that with stocks. If I get a loan from stocks, I pay off that. Right. And that's called like a margin call, a margin line that can be called at any time. If the value goes down. And so why would I buy real estate over stocks? Well, again, I would buy both, but I'm heavily more favored over to real estate is because somebody else pays off my debt. And it's a hard asset. It's not as extremes as stocks, bonds, or not bonds, but stocks and Bitcoin. So it's very stable. Even in COVID, we saw real estate, even the thick of COVID, real estate, maybe kind of took one little pause, but it held during a world pandemic, and real estate, at least in Southern California, it was really, really stable. Yeah. So But I mean, I have a laundry list of reasons to buy real estate over stocks. But I like other people paying off debt, and somebody else lives there, and the asset goes up over time, and rent goes up over time. You know, it might not be that sexy of a thing like Bitcoin. You can double in value in a month. But look how stable Bitcoin is.
Yeah, exactly. Or the stock market. Think about it too. Is what happened 2 years ago? What happened to the stock market?
38% in, what is that, 2 weeks?
Drop.
Yeah.
Now, the trick is, how long will it take you to recover from that valley to be where you were at?
Yeah.
A lot. It's going to take you more than 38%.
Well, it's already dipped again since that. Since then. So.
And what's happened to the real estate market?
One little pause by a couple percent, maybe. You know, there was no fire sales, at least in Southern
There's
California.
no recession in real estate. There's a tech recession, but no real estate recession. So I think a lot of the times people mistake, it's just so crazy out there, and it just the bubble's gonna pop, and it's like, no. I did a video a long time ago. It was last year. And really, there's the stock market recession and the real estate recession are in no way, shape, or form related.
For sure.
Which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
For the last 7 years, there's no correlation between the two. And it's interesting. So I think just some people would just miss the boat on that. So
for sure.
Long story short, you have to diversify, or we would recommend diversify so that then you have multiple assets. So one goes up, one goes down. Okay, you're still moving ahead in some way, shape, or form.
Right, and I think lastly on that is real estate, even just having the average Joe having one property, and that could be you own your home and then you buy an investment property, or you own your home, make a move, rent that out, and then go buy another one and keep that one as your rental property. And even if you just stop there, it's a simple way to create wealth over time, and it doesn't take rocket science. It takes some educated risk and educated just risk going into that, but somebody else pays off your debt. Even you can slowly raise
write-offs. I mean, there are other tax incentives.
Exactly, and
you can leverage it to do other things.
100%, and more importantly, if a rainy day were to happen, you have other options. You just give your family, you and your family, more options if a rainy day happens, because they do happen. We don't plan for that. Best case scenario doesn't happen every single day. It did in 2021.
Different story.
Yeah, but just it doesn't happen like that. So I like to have more options for an emergency, and I think real estate is definitely one.
Yeah, so that actually leads me into the other question. So it's question number 2 for today is, Joey, it's a headache to manage properties out of state or out of the area. I can't drive by it, so it's just a headache.
Right.
I don't do it.
I used to think that way.
And I can't buy anything in Orange County because it's $1.5 million.
Yeah, and that's true too. But I actually used to think that way. So I own 9 units in Texas. So that's out of state. So out of state investor. And for years, I mean, I've been in real estate for almost 10 years. My first 6 or 7 years, I was not a believer in renting or in buying rental properties out of state. I thought it was scary. I thought it was, people get screwed, that kind of thing. Property managers, take advantage of you. And so I just was like, why would I just do that? I should just, invest it in my backyard. But for me, over the last 5 years, really, I've been learning more about it, talking to other investors who live in Southern California and Orange County, but own real estate all over the country. And most of the real estate is outside of California, and just learning from what they have to say. And over years, again, this wasn't over 2 months, over years, and reading books and going to seminars, I'm definitely not the only one that owns real estate out of state, and there is a way to do it. Obviously, you need to know the market, like 100%. Orange County is not like the rest of the country by any means. So if you've lived in Orange County and you're looking to invest out of state, you just need to have different expectations, because it's not the same. Orange County is its own thing, and that's why it's highly desirable. People are want to live here. But I, with a little bit of research and, slowly entering out of state, it's been great for me because I've been able to diversify. I do own real estate here in Orange County, but having other assets in other areas to kind of counterbalance what I'm doing here in California.
Yeah.
I've been really thankful for it, and I'll continue to buy out of state, but I would say it wasn't as hard as what I thought. And it's been about a year and a half that I've owned out of state. Especially with the internet, and if you're just savvy with, looking at stuff online and talking to people and setting it up, it's really not that impossible. So
yeah, I would agree. So how many times have you been to Texas after the purchase?
Oh, after the purchase, zero.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't been back. I have a realtor, boots on the ground. I have multiple handyman contractors, and
so
a lot of
resourceful. If you have internet,
yes,
you can do it from here.
Yeah, I can do it.
And you have boots on the ground.
If I needed to on vacation, but that, the system is to where you barely. I mean, I only spend for the 10 units that I own just maybe 2 hours a week, maybe in like managing, coordinating, setting stuff up. It actually might be less than that. Now, the first month, it was more than that as I was setting up the system.
Right.
But I would say if you know the local market, you understand who the tenants are and what their needs are, and pricing, it becomes pretty simple when you set it up. So, and then that could be another podcast on how to set, and I can go into details of all of that. But with the internet today and having just good handyman and a good realtor, boots on the ground, it's made my life really easy.
Right, exactly. And that's pretty much all you need. I mean, if you did that here and you're not licensed, you need a real estate agent like you and I to do that legwork for you, to be the boots on the ground anyway. Right. Once it's all set up, then you can run it, you can operate it. It's pretty easy.
Absolutely.
But to get screen tenants, it helps when you have somebody that's helping
100%.
you with forms, that tells you about the market. Yeah, so that you need a real estate agent if you're not one already.
For sure.
In almost every market. Whether it's here, Texas, Utah, Florida, doesn't really matter. Yeah,
my first thing, so even before I bought in Texas, and then we'll go to you. The first thing I did was interview agents and find the agent, that I wanted to work with, that had some or most of their experience was working with investors and investing, and had a pulse on the market and renters. Yeah. So that was my first thing, and then everything else came from there, because what I have found, because my dad's a contractor, so he would always, his subs, he would ask the subs for other subs.
Right.
So do you know any other foreman in this area, in this? So I saw my dad do that. So my realtor, when I identified who my realtor was, I asked them, hey, do you have any handymen, any painters, any plumbers, electrician? Yeah. And then I asked, and she referred me to multiple.
Yeah.
I met them, and then, kind of not necessarily interviewed them, but just met them at the property and just kind of walked them through what I needed done. Yeah. And then I asked them for other subs too. So I have like 2 or 3 sets of handyman contractors for every line, just by asking and just being purposeful. So it's pretty simple, but I've been very thankful, and I'll still buy here in Orange County and out of state, but I've been thankful. Now, going to yourself, I hear people, it's a pain in the butt to own real estate in your backyard, and you constantly have to drive by the property, and the tenants know you personally or know where you live. Have you experienced any of that?
Yeah, I have not, and we have properties within a few minutes from here, hour and a half, and no, it hasn't been an issue. And at the end of the day, you still have to know the basics. You have to know the area. You have to know the tenants that are going to rent from you in that area. You have to know what the market is doing there, and you still need handyman and resources. So for the one we have in La Quinta, we use a local agent.
Good.
Because
that's like an hour and a half away.
It's an hour and a half. I don't want to go.
Right.
We're actually coming up. We increased the rent on that one, so the tenant's leaving. So we're turning the tenant. So then it's we do the screening from here. We talk to the tenants, get references from here. But as far as showing it, no, I don't go there. I pay somebody a nominal amount,
and then to go do that. Yeah, and they're more than happy to be the boots on the ground. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's.
Do you have to constantly you have other real estate within 20 minutes of here? Are you or do you feel like you constantly have to go to the property and drive by it and all that stuff?
Oddly enough, my office is 3 minutes away from the property on the same street on Baker, and I don't drive by it every day.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't have to.
That's great.
Why?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
seriously.
so I don't really have to. Yeah, I do drive by probably once a month because I mean it's right there.
Yeah, that's close.
And I feel guilty not doing it because it's right there. Not because I have to, because I just feel.
It's more
guilty.
of like a need, like, hey, just want to make sure it's still, it's not burnt
Still
down.
standing.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel like I have to. So
Okay.
same thing with the other one. I think it's easy if you have the system in place and you have people that you trust that you work with.
That's right.
You're fine. Yeah, you're fine. And plus, you're not going to live in it, so it's never going to be as nice as your property. So now with that is, as you're building this out, would you buy and flip, or would you buy and hold? What do you think makes more sense if the strategy is to build wealth?
So the short answer is what's right for me is buy and hold. It's not like sexy. You don't become super wealthy over the first property. I think, when you buy your first property, it's like, oh, really? Like, this is all the money that I'm making off of it. That's kind of the general feel of like the buy and hold. But fast forward 5 years, 10 years, and then it compounds. But for me, it's buy and hold. I have seen people do both, where they flip to get some cash and revenue, and then they go buy long-term holds with that.
Right.
The majority of flippers I know, they only flip, and they keep getting in the rhythm of only flipping, and the thought is, well, why would I put all that capital to go buy this investment property when I can flip it and turn and make X amount within 3 or 4 months? That does make sense, but every flipper I know that's doing that, still flipping. And I don't
have any assets. They only flip.
They flip.
They have
they pay a lot in taxes, right? Which is fine. Again, I'd love to see people where they flip, do several flips a year, and then keep one of them and rent it out, and then do that over years and years.
Right.
I mean, you can really, you get best of both worlds. You're scaling cash flow real quickly with flipping, again, if flipping's going right, and the market is in your favor, and then you're taking advantage of the the long-term stability and wealth of rental real estate. I've never flipped a property, actually. I've only bought and hold. I have 10 right now, and so it's a slow journey to wealth, but I'm young and I have time on my side. That I think, and so I know that long term I'm going to be thankful I did that and not sold it. So that's for me. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I've done both.
That's right. You have.
We bought and flipped, and I think for us the better game is buying and holding.
Yeah.
Because we don't need. Of course, we always need more income.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
But the income to tax ratio is different now, so then buying and holding makes more sense long term than buying and flipping. Flipping is awesome, it's fun, you make 50,000-70,000, clients that I have that are making 50-70 grand per house and then flipping 4 in 1 month, 2 months. I mean, that's a lot of
that's fun
away. It's a lot of fun, but then you're paying taxes on that, and not only that, it just if you don't buy and hold, then you're gonna keep turning the cash. You have to keep working the cash, and then when do you stop? And it can be addicting. So if I'm like, oh, this is exciting, it's like 70 grand. Whoa, I should be in that game. But does it really make sense long term? And I think a combination of both if that's a business strategy. But for the regular, I would say for the individual that it doesn't want to do that, they have a full-time job, and it's something they just want to build wealth over time, and they want to start small, get 1 to 5 or whatever that might be. Holding is the strategy. Yeah,
for sure. Well, so I think I will be interested in doing flipping in the future, but I feel like I've kind of done a version of flip. It's more of a long-term flip where, cash out refinance, because I'm pulling out like a lot of cash, if you will. But the great thing is I still own the home, and
you kept it.
And that's tax-free.
Right.
So if I pulled out 70 grand, again, I wouldn't be able to do that, within the first year generally of owning a home. But after a couple years and market goes up, you got debt pay down. You pull out, if it's favorable to do a cash out refinance, you can, and I've done that several times with my properties. You can pull out a good amount of cash that way, but it's not as quick as flipping for sure.
Right. Yeah. No, I think we can, not only that, I also think that you can do a combination of both, where you're buying to flip, and then even starting out, like people that don't have kids. So I have clients that don't have kids, and my recommendation to them is like, look, get into a unit, buy a duplex, triplex, live in it for a year, save enough to buy another one. Your entry, your barrier to entry is going to be 5%, 10%, depending how much money you make. So with that, you get into it, you fix it, you increase the value, then you increase the rent by you doing the updates. That's one thing. And then you go buy another one and you do it again. You do it 3 times, and now all of a sudden you're a millionaire. And
Seriously?
it's not a miracle. You put in the work and you sacrifice yourself. You didn't buy the Maserati. You didn't live at the luxury apartments next to the water.
Yeah.
All
but those are nice.
Those are really nice. But then if you sacrifice over 5-7 years, then you're way better than some of the people some of the peers that you were going to be hanging out with. And
100%
you're going to be
that are in the same
miles
spot. Yeah.
ahead.
Right. Exactly. And I think also, yes, you can. I think one thing for the average person is get started young if you can. So if you're young, well, considering, hey, how else can I get ahead in this life? Even if, I mean, I know a lot of people that do pretty well, they're single or just not married, but feel like, hey, I'm feeling like I make decent money on paper, but I'm having a hard time getting ahead.
Right.
So get started young with buying yourself and buying a primary, and then maybe moving every couple years and renting that out, or house hacking. So if you're single, buy 2-3 bedroom condo and then rent out 1 or 2 of the other rooms.
Right.
That is definitely, yes, that's not as convenient because of privacy. You don't have the unit to yourself. But as far as a second business or an income producing, I mean, you can make your house payment shrink dramatically by house hacking like that.
Yeah, or like, for example, Kelly.
Yeah.
Graduated college, so early 20s. Her parents helped her buy the condo, or she could have bought it herself because it was like $360,000, right? At that time, 13 years ago. Crazy. In Newport.
Yeah.
West Newport, $360,000. And then her parents helped her remodel. And then, long story short, she was paying the mortgage. She had 2 roommates. So she was collecting rent from the roommates. She was paying HOA, taxes, insurance, mortgage, everything. Her payment per month was like $800. $800.
That's great.
Versus like $1,500. I think at the time I was paying $1,600 in rent. And she was paying $800, and she owned her condo.
Yeah.
And I had a bedroom.
She did have 2 roommates, so she had to sacrifice. I remember them.
Yeah.
But that is definitely, like, I think today's day, if you're single and have a decent job or whatever, and I would house hack. If I was married, or even maybe if I was married but no kids, house hack. That, I think everybody and their mother, especially with rent being so gosh dang high, anywhere, and not just in Southern California, but one bedroom where you share the living space. I mean, you can get, $1,000 or more per room. I mean, that you can really offset some bills there.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a way to do it. You just got to be creative.
Right.
And be willing to at least learn a little bit more. And really what the next step is that they should reach out and ask us questions.
Ask people that know, yeah.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, too, not every real estate agent knows.
Very true. Yeah, as we know.
Right, yeah. So I would say just talk to people that know, get the right advice, and get started.
Get started.
That's the biggest thing, and either way, just make sacrifices now so you can enjoy it in the future.
Heck yeah.
That's really it. But anything else you want to add?
I think we can end on that. Sacrifice.
Sacrifice.